Landgravine Louise Auguste of Hesse-Darmstadt was a German princess. She was the daughter of Louis IX, Landgrave of Hesse-Darmstadt. On 3 October 1775 she married Duke Charles Augustus of Saxe-Weimar-Eisenach and is such a member of the court sphere of Weimar Classicism. She was held to be serious and introverted but also compassionate and sympathetic. In the aftermath of the Battle of Jena, which guaranteed her part in the later myth of Weimar early life, the princess belonged to the House of Darmstadt, which held the Hessian Landgraviate. She was born on 30 January 1757 in Frederick II's Prussian capital, Berlin, where her parents were due to the 7 Years' War. Her father Louis IX succeeded to the Landgraviate in 1768 and was at the time of her birth fighting as a general for the Prussian forces. He was thus often away from his children, and so the princess's education was in her mother Caroline's hands. Caroline educated Louise in the evangelical Protestant tradition, and she became interested in literature and music. As the youngest daughter, with 8 siblings, Louise's education was important to improve her marriage prospects. Since Louis IX showed little interest in his children, it was vital to get Louise married, often a matter also in the hands of her mother. Becoming known as the Great Landgravine and von Zweibrücken due to her expert international dynastic politics in ancient regime Europe. In 1773 Louise travelled with her mother and sisters Amalia and Wilhelmine to Beschau, then to the Russian court in St. Petersburg. Tsarina Catherine II decided Louise was unsuitable as a wife for the Grand Prince and future Tsar Paul, preferring her sister Wilhelmine. This rebuff and her relationship with her future brother-in-law Paul formed Louise, leading to her being a persistent influence in the Russian state. Nevertheless, this journey was not without influence on Louise, since on the way to Russia Caroline had learned of another female regent of a small German state, Anna Amalia. Anna and Louise probably found favor together. Marriage. At the end of this acquaintance, under the influence of the governor in Erfurt from the Archbishopric of Mainz, Karl Theodor Anton Maria von Dalberg, the 18-year-old Louise was betrothed to the young knight Karl Auguste of Saxe-Weimar. The marriage occurred on 3 October 1775 at the Karlsruhe court, where Louise became caught up in the Ernestine Weimar court. The marriage was wholly dynastic in purpose, consolidating the Duchy of Saxe-Weimar's place at the heart of the Holy Roman Empire. Primary and secondary sources agree that it was as unhappy with Louise had difficulty fitting in at court and remained in the shadow of her mother-in-law, the Dowager Duchess Anna Amalia. Louise especially attended the convents in her new country. A romantic avant la lettre, she did not have a taste for the romantic lifestyle. Goethe was court poet and minister to her husband, but was moved by her charm, noble-heartedness and her eyes, the color of cornflowers. Taking her under his wing, Goethe dedicated the following words to her. After 4 years of marriage, in 1779 Louise finally gave birth her first child. Sadly, wasn't the hoped male heir but a daughter, named after her, and lived only 5 years. Her next pregnancy, in 1781, produced a second daughter who died immediately after birth. At this time the Weimar ducal court also went through its Sturm und Drang phase, drawing not only Goethe but also the Ernestines from Massilian and Esselian. The resulting emotional coldness did not help the marriage, with her husband publicly humiliating the marriage by a long-term affair with the actress Caroline Jaegerman. Louise only gave him the heir in 1783, with the birth of Charles Frederick. After him, followed 4 more children, of whom 2 survive infancy: Caroline Louise in 1786 and Bernhard in 1792. With the birth of Bernhard, the marriage had finally served its purpose of guaranteeing the succession to the throne and the continuation of the dynasty. Charles Frederick later married Maria, sister of Alexander I of Russia, and a daughter. Auguste of Saxe-Weimar married Prince Wilhelm of Prussia, thus becoming the first Empress of Germany. Napoleonic Wars. Louise had her great moment in October 1806. Despite her childhood and her early experiences in Weimar, she was a great influence in literary circles. The Battle of Jena led to the defeat of the Prussian Saxon forces and the total submission of all the German states to France, and precipitated the fall of the Holy Roman Empire. Soon after the battle, the victorious French troops advanced on Weimar. The other family members either fled or were away fighting in the Prussian forces, and so Louise remained in Weimar as mother and protector of the nation. 2 days after the battle, she ended up opposing Napoleon himself. He insisted that her husband withdraw from Prussian military service, but she quite undiplomatically made it clear to Napoleon that he could not do so. Nevertheless, at her husband's request and inspired by the example of the German patriot Queen Louise of Prussia, she managed to arrange the French plundering of the area so that Weimar got lightly compared to the university city of Jena. Whether Napoleon let himself soften towards Louise, or whether he acted this way due to his own calculations in power politics, remains open to discussion. The Saxe-Weimar-Eisenach Duchy remained with the alliance upon the Treaty of Poznan and survived the Napoleonic era via further politicking, since Louise was now considered as the country's leader, and her subjects and contemporaries maintained this image of her, along with her part in the Weimar myth. In 1815, her politicking during the war ensured that at the Congress of Vienna her husband's small duchy not only retained all its territory but rose to become her duchy. She then became devoted to ambassadorial duties. The Russian alliance ended with her successor Maria Paulina, the jubilee of her rule and her golden wedding, both in 1825, passed with little celebration and already very withdrawn. She died aged 73 on the 14th of February 1830. Issue. She and Charles Augustus had 7 children, of whom only 3 survive adulthood. Louise Augusta Amalia, a daughter, Charles Frederick, Grand Duke of Saxe-Weimar-Eisenach. A son, Caroline Louise, married hereditary Prince Frederick Louis of Mecklenburg-Schwerin. A son, Charles Bernhard. Ancestry. Bibliography. Bornick, Friedrich Oswald Weimar. Die Großherzoginnen Louise und Maria Paulina, Breslau 1908. Hammerich, Louis Leonor. Zwei kleine Goethestudien. 2. Großherzogin Louise von Sachsen-Weimar, eine politisch keines Konzil, Copenhagen 1962. Taxis Bordogna Olga, Frauen von Weimar, München 1950.